Next panel discussion. Those who will be joining us for the second half, I would like to update you on the previous sessions that we have this morning. The new paradigm shift, the new education policy, tech-enabled schools, are we hybrid? That's what we had. Amazing discussions we had this morning, and now we are all set for another discussion. The topic is Future of International Education in Growing Cities of India. To keep the time in mind, I would now announce the panel discussion 3 to start. The topic is Future of International Education in Growing Cities of India. May I request the moderator for this panel discussion, Dr. Dhirendra Mishra, founder, Life Educare, to please come on the stage and take the seat. I would request the panelist, Mr. Mahesh Balakrishna, Senior Manager, South Asia, IB, join us on the stage. I request Mr. Siddharth Singh, Director, the Emerald Heights International School, Indore, to join me on the stage. Mr. Akshay Chopra, Regional Head, Western Central India, Cambridge, Assessment, International Education. I would request to begin with this panel discussion. The topic is Future of International Education in Growing Cities of India.
IB, both sitting here. So first of all, thank you so much for being here and sharing your valuable time with us. I'm also delighted to meet first time, but I've heard a lot about the school and Mr. Siddharth Singh, the director for Emerald Heights School. Thank you so much for being here today. And I would want to start this with my introduction, not a boastful one, but I'll tell you how I relate to all of you. So I was a state board school student. I was a student of a state board school. And then I was a teacher for a state board school. But in 9 or 10 years of my career as a teacher, I taught state board, I taught Cambridge, I taught IB, I taught CBSE, and I taught ICSE also. So, schools with multiple boards, possibly, main towns in India are doing that now, but I think, hill station schools always had 2 to 3 boards. So I was fortunate to teach all the boards, and I think I know the beauty of each board, not that state board is not doing justice. I think, to each one, if I can use the term called market, are doing justice to the market which they are in. But, and for a very brief period of time, almost a month, I was a teacher of a school here in Indore as well in 2006. So I know the landscape of the city, the way it has changed, and it's time for, so I was meeting a few people yesterday. They said that Indore is a city where a lot of corporates come and do their experiments. 2 things what they told: Uber Eats was launched first in India, and FM radio was also first launched in Indore. And once it was tested in Indore, then it took kind of, it was launched in other parts of the country. So I think international education, what we are talking about, schools like Chaitram, did that way back in 2004, 5, 6. And now we have a lot of schools either doing international curriculum or, trying to get into international curriculum. And there was a boom from 2011 to even now to convert their existing state board schools into CBSE or ICSE. I think the trend has now started. People are trying to convert their existing national curricula schools to Cambridge and IB. So I'll try to keep this session very informative because I think we all can speak about the challenges of all that. But I think I would want to begin with the introduction, like IB and Cambridge, what these boards are and what I feel about it, or maybe what Mr. Siddharth feels about it. As so he was a student of an IB school. He is an IB student, and he runs Cambridge. CBS is a program. So let us hear people first, what is their opinion about the international boards, and I would want to begin this with Mr. Akshay. Akshay, if you can tell us the basics of Cambridge and how are we, going to be different if we adopt Cambridge as a curriculum.
Sure. Am I audible? Yes, I am. Thank you, Dr. Dhirendra. So, first, touching upon the basics. So, Cambridge Assessment International Education, that's the name of the board, if I can put it loosely. That's part of the University of Cambridge, which we all understand has a very rich history. If you look at the Cambridge programs, we offer it all the way from nursery in the Indian context to grade 12, that is catering to students age 3, all the way to 17, 19 age group. That's the wide spectrum, and we have 5 programs that are part of the overall spectrum or the pathway that we call it. What's the core of Cambridge? Our focus is to prepare students for life. So we partner with schools and we work on developing skill sets, developing life skills, critical thinking skills, be it research, collaboration, communication. So that's the whole focus area, and how we do it is through the intersection of the 3 key vectors of any education system. One is the curriculum, the other is the teaching and learning, and the third is the assessment. So at Cambridge we believe the best teaching and learning happens at the intersection of these three sort of circles, and that is the core of Cambridge, that there is a structure that is given to you, okay, that enables you to run an experiential learning class and cater to students in a more holistic manner. So the entire focus is on developing skill sets through the academics, where in conventional boards we tend to look at it in isolation, as in if maybe it depends on the whims and fancy or the skills of a particular teacher to elevate the classroom discourse to a particular level. But in case of Cambridge, it becomes a process. So any teacher or any educator who's part of the process automatically starts delivering in that manner. And just one final point, since assessment is at the core of it, the essential challenge that we face today is that if you're expecting teachers to deliver in an engaging manner in the classroom, and if the assessments don't speak the same language, that is where there is a dichotomy. So at Cambridge we address that issue very clearly. So when you know that assessments are all going to be application oriented, then obviously the whole pedagogy and curriculum will align to that to ensure that the outcomes are maximized. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Akshay. So let us hear from Mahesh sir about what IB is, and then I come to Mr. Siddharth. Sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Namaste. Thank you, Dr. Mishra. Thank you, Akshay, for that introduction. IB is not International Intelligence Bureau. It is International Baccalaureate. Because when I call school heads, many times they get scared and I'm calling from IB. Okay. So what is IB? It started in 1968. After the World War II, the League of Nations became United Nations. And how do diplomats coming over to Geneva or New York, what do they learn? Because people are coming from all over the world. And the Independent School Association was very keen that a board develops. A lot of universities were involved, and the IB was born. And usually people grow bottoms up, IB grew top down. We had a diploma program at grade 11 and 12 as our first program. Very interesting program, very research oriented, good choice of subjects. They said that every student should have a good mix which would help them in university. Because globally, universities have a very different perspective. You can be an economics student and go on to do medicine in America. You can be a liberal arts student and do medicine. Even if you have to do law, law is not an undergrad course in America. Okay. My son, after IB DP, okay, he didn't take biology as a subject, but he's practicing medicine in Singapore. That's the difference it provides. Then we have now the program from early years all the way up to class 5, the primary years program. We have the middle years program from grade 6 to 10. Our 10th board exam is an on-screen exam. It's not a pen and paper exam. 11th and 12th, we have got two wonderful programs called the diploma program. While diploma, we think it's a polytechnic. No, it's a school-based program. All our programs are school-based. And we also have a IBCP or the careers program, where a student can deep dive into 2 years of artificial intelligence, or say film studies, or psychology, or dietetics and nutrition, sports management. Now with a lot of IPL and Cricket World Cup and all, you need people who can be good at sports and also have a future. So the IBCP is an attempt at doing that. IB is about student-centric learning. Okay. We believe the children should fall in love with learning. It is inquiry-based. The whole of the NEP draws very heavily from the IB, especially in the K-12 segment. Students at a higher level get ready for challenges of the university life and for life, workplace as well. They become problem solvers, critical thinking and much more. I love to call it that IB in India falls between two Indian movies. One is Tare Zameen Par and Three Idiots. Okay? You learn concepts, you learn context. I have myself grown up in a small town called Bhopal, and many schools in India are using IB as a framework in a CBSE school, in a state board school, and in an ICSE school. Okay? They are also using IB as an international curriculum, where the school decides to offer it as an international offering. Many Cambridge schools as well, they offer the IB programs either as a standalone or in a continuum basis. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, as put by the speakers, the panelists, what CBSE is for India, for people, those who travel across the country for their work, I think Cambridge and IB are to the world. Anybody, you know, who, we are talking about global citizenship in 21st century. So I think these international boards give us a framework, give us a, you know, a uniform delivery of, you know, curriculum where the parents and the child can go and settle anywhere, and they have, you know, seamless delivery of the program. So my question to Siddharth, you would be, as a student of an international curriculum and, you know, somebody who runs a CBSE school, and Indore, yeah, growing up, but, you know, I grew up in Bhopal. So we know, you know, these are the unheard places, you know, like 10 years ago. Why do you think international curriculum is the need of the hour? Is the need of the hour? Why should, you know, people go for international schools, CBSE or ICSE, you know, not them and maybe an international curriculum?
So good afternoon, everyone, and very excited to be here. So very valid question. So my answer is, you know, very simple, because it all depends on aspirations. Now, what aspirations do parents have? Because parents, end of the day, choose the school for the kids. And especially at the early years level, you know, parents are making that decision of choosing IB, Cambridge or CBSE. Because Indore is a growing city, the aspirations are going to change, you know. We have a lot of parents who are migrating from big cities like Bangalore, Delhi, you know, Chennai, who are moving to Indore, they are moving from abroad. And generally the kids were studying in IB schools and Cambridge schools. Now, you can say that CBSE is, you know, like the heartland of India. CBSE board or the state boards are the heartland boards of India. Majority of the people who are, you know, doing very well abroad have come from the Indian curriculum. But what's happening now is that with our population, with our, you know, different logistical problems, somewhere I feel that our curriculum has failed to adapt. They are trying to adapt, but they are slower in kind of adapting. And that gives, I think, space to international curriculum, especially in the growing cities, because aspirations are different. Aspirations for the kid from Indore today is to go to US, maybe go to Ivy League universities, go to some best of the universities at UK, and there these curriculums, they provide you with an edge over the Indian curriculum because the way they are designed, the opportunities they have to offer. And as I think both my colleagues rightly spoke about, skill-based education and the ability to choose different subjects and move away from, that commerce, you are a commerce student or you're a science student or you're a humanities student. How does it matter? I can be good at, like today, very frankly, I get very sad when, to be an architect, you have to study chemistry, right? They recently removed it, but then why should you study chemistry to be an architect? Like is there any architect here who can maybe answer that? But that has been, I would say that's the debacle of our education system, that we have some prerequisites to do something, and we can always train kids after the high school, maybe go with a foundation year and provide them the opportunity to move forward. So I feel that the international curriculums have adapted to the future very well, and they have benchmarked themselves with different countries across the world. So it's not about one country. IB operates in how many countries today? 159 countries. Cambridge is in 175 countries. So that's where the upgradation is happening. Your upgradation is happening from 159 countries and 175 countries, whereas the Indian curriculum, unfortunately, is concentrating on, things which are not important, very frankly. They are more worried about how big your land is or how high your boundary wall is and other things which are not relevant. They should be talking about examinations, they should be talking about assessment, they should be talking about curriculum, they should be talking about higher education, but we are stuck at the boundary height and we are stuck at different things which are not at all important.
Thank you. So Mahesh sir has a follow-up question for Siddharth.
Yeah. So one of the things what I've seen is in IB, we have regular curriculum reviews. The curriculum is not static. It keeps changing. Like many of us complain, if you've done engineering, say civil engineering in 1971, and your son or grandson is doing civil engineering now, the books haven't changed. That's the usual complaint, right? But in international boards, the curriculum keeps evolving with an eye on the future, as Siddharth rightly said. I have a question for him, because he has done IBDP, okay? And one of the elements of IBDP is the IBDP core, which is theory of knowledge, the extended essay, and the creativity, action, and service, which means community service. My question to you, Siddharth, is how is that relevant? Can you?
So I'll say this. I think what IB does, what international curriculums do, it's extremely relevant because you are exposing students to social service, which we call service learning. So I'll add this, that schools like us, I believe that we are running a very progressive school, though we are following CBSE board because that's the demand of the market. I won't say that if I launch IB school today in Indore, my 4,000 parents are going to accept IB. They're not. Because there is a financial reason to that, and there are a lot of trainings and all that is involved. Not to say that IB is not good or Cambridge is not good. They are good, but as I said, aspirations, and we have to cater to our market, right? But what we do is that, being a CBSE school, we have service learning, which is part of the school. We have, what TOK does, we do that with our MUN lab, with what Global Perspectives does in Cambridge and TOK does in IB. So we are trying to follow what the good parts of IB and Cambridge, though we are a CBSE school. And I'm sure that all the progressive schools across the country are doing that. But it is extremely important that you force a teenager to learn about service. Why? Because they realize what kind of privilege they have. Because right now, as I was sharing with them, that they compare, he has a Mercedes, I have an iPhone, he has this, he has that. When they go for service learning, when they go for action, when they go for, when they go for the CAS activities, when they think about TOK, they are thinking out of the box. When they do global perspective, we are forcing them to ask questions. Teaching them how to ask questions, how to ask relevant questions, and how to critically analyze what they read. And that's especially important with the social media culture that we have. We believe whatever we read. It's very important to teach our kids how to critically analyze what you see and what you hear or what you read. Because not everything that you're going to see in this AI world is going to be true. So I think that these extra elements of the curriculum have a very important role to play in the upbringing of the child.
So another follow-up question from my side to Akshay. We spoke about if I have to talk in a normal language, the extras that, the international boards give to a child. Mahesh sir spoke and Siddharth spoke about it. Akshay, what do you feel? What are the extras, those, the add-ons that you think the national curriculum doesn't offer and Cambridge offers?
So one is, one way of looking at this is to purely look at tangibles. Okay, so let's say at Cambridge we offer global perspectives, which is thematic in nature. So you take a particular world issue and you look at it across themes. It could be English, mathematics. That is how life hits us. Life doesn't hit us in these disciplinary, streamlined courses that we study at schools. So in case of Cambridge, obviously that is one way of how you go about developing your research skills, and all of it is, as I alluded to it earlier, all of it is embedded in terms of what the assessments and what the curriculum and teaching and learning dictate. So research becomes a very intrinsic part of how you engage with the curriculum when you know for the fact that the teacher cannot just enter the class without doing any pre-work. You know that is the kind of expectation you have on the other side as well. That is where things like flipped classroom and other things come into the picture. So because of the way the curriculum, assessment and teaching learning are structured, it becomes a process. So it is not at the mercy of any particular teacher. The other thing that I would say is in terms of what is really the extra part of it is obviously the mindset bit as well, which is extremely critical in terms of how you look at Cambridge, not just as a curriculum or as a program, but you look at it as a mindset. So technically, when a school is offering the Cambridge program, it's not just the academics or the curricular where the board comes into the picture or our programs come into the picture, but it's all about how you engage with the other things as well. It could be co-curricular, extracurricular. So that mindset where you are developing agency in students, that mindset can run across subjects or disciplines that you deliver. So I would say in terms of extras, we can look at the tangibles like global perspectives, what Mahesh briefly alluded to in his question to Siddharth on TOK. So we have the Duke of Edinburgh Award, we have the CAS component, the equivalent of that, we call it the community service element that we have. We have the project qualification, which again promotes a lot of research across, from sort of secondary as well as from secondary to higher secondary qualification. So all of those things are pretty much a part, an intrinsic part of how the programs get delivered. So it's largely, I would say, the mindset that you bring into the picture, and then you are able to impact all the levers that takes to run a school.
Thank you, Akshay. So now my next question to the representatives from Cambridge and IB would be on everybody's behalf. आप लोग तो बहुत महंगे हो, right? Cambridge and IB, it's like people feel that they are very expensive boards. Not everybody can afford that. So I want the answers from both of you. So to start with Mahesh sir, आप लोग बहुत महंगे हो. Can you answer this for me?
Yes. एक तो जनरल मिथ है. मैं अभी थोड़ा सिद्धार्थ से माफ़ी मांगूंगा. I hope I can answer it in हिंदी, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन आपने मेरे से हिंदी में पूछा था. Sure. पहली बात यह है कि स्कूल्स आईबी और कैम्ब्रिज का एक, मैं अक्षय के बिहाफ में भी थोड़ा बोल देता हूँ. आई एम श्योर ही विल ऑल्सो नॉट बीट मी. ओके, कि एक इंटरनेशनल बोर्ड का नाम लेके स्कूल.
सर, कैन आई ऐड वन मोर एस्पेक्ट टू द क्वेश्चन? आई एम सो सॉरी. सो सिंस आई एम आस्किंग, आप लोग तो बहुत महंगे हो, हाउ डू यू थिंक स्मॉल टाउन्स कैन रियली वर्क विद कैम्ब्रिज एंड आईबी?
कमिंग डाउन टू दैट, स्कूल्स क्या करते हैं, स्कूल मैनेजमेंट जो रहता है जनरली, वो पेरेंट्स को बोलता है आईबी और कैम्ब्रिज फीस ज़्यादा चार्ज करता है इसलिए हम महंगे हैं. दैट इज़ वन वे टू मेक मोर मनी. क्योंकि काफ़ी स्टेट्स में रेस्ट्रिक्शन है कि आप फी हाइक नहीं कर सकते, तो इंटरनेशनल बोर्ड बिकम्स अ मैकेनिज्म फॉर देम टू चार्ज मोर फीस। ये एक मैं ओपन स्टेटमेंट बोलता हूँ। दूसरी बात यह है कि अगर आप देखोगे रियलिटी में तो आईबी और कैम्ब्रिज महंगे नहीं है, ओके। हाँ, लेकिन आईबी मैंडेट करता है और कैम्ब्रिज भी मैंडेट करता है कि टीचर ट्रेनिंग, सो यू नीड टू ट्रेन योर टीचर्स विच कैन बी एक्सपेंसिव। येट मैं आपको एक और चीज बोलता हूँ, जो पुराने स्कूल्स हैं इंडिया में उस समय लैंड कॉस्ट भी कम था। अभी जो काफी स्कूल्स आ रहे हैं वो नए स्कूल आ रहे हैं, आईबी और कैम्ब्रिज और बाकी सीबीएसई बोर्ड के भी, उनको जो लैंड पार्सल मिलता है वो बहुत महंगा मिलता है। तो और जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, आजकल पेरेंट का भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एक्सपेक्टेशन बढ़ गया है, ऑल दिस एड्स टू कॉस्ट। आईबी ये मैंडेट नहीं करता है कि आपको मार्बल फ्लोरिंग होना चाहिए, आपको कारपेट होना चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए। आईबी डजंट मैंडेट, आईबी फोकसेस ऑन टीचिंग एंड लर्निंग, हम बोलते हैं लर्नर स्पेस। इसके अलावा टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन, हमारे स्कूल्स ऐसे भी हैं बहुत सस्ते भी हैं, हमारे गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स भी हैं जो फ्री एजुकेशन दे रहे हैं, प्राइवेट स्कूल्स भी हैं जो सस्ते भी हैं और बहुत महंगे भी हैं। हमारे पास स्कूल्स हैं विच आर चार्जिंग 1500 पर मंथ, एंड हमारे पास ऐसे भी स्कूल हैं विच आर चार्जिंग 4 लाख रुपीज पर मंथ। दैट इज अ वेरिएशन, वी डोंट, बट दी स्कूल्स जो है वी डोंट मैंडेट व्हाट फीस दे शुड चार्ज, येट वी हैव अ लार्ज नंबर ऑफ स्कूल्स who look at it as a value proposition, and many of the schools, the parents are looking at it seriously and they are happy with that.
Thank you, sir. So same question to Akshay. आप लोग तो बहुत महंगे हो।
You know, further to what Mahesh said, इस particular panel में एक हमारे CBSE के जो स्कूल चला रहे हैं सिद्धार्थ, in fact there are a lot of Cambridge schools जो बहुत कम प्राइस पॉइंट पर है, उनके खुद के जो CBSE स्कूल के हैं उससे बहुत लोअर प्राइस पॉइंट पे, बट यू नो एज महेश mentioned that it all comes down to the value proposition and what Siddharth also alluded in his earlier address. So it's very important to look at it from that standpoint that अगर मैं एक प्राइस पे कर रहा हूँ, what is the value that I'm deriving out of it? That is how you know the economics get justified. I would say that as far as Cambridge is concerned, for us, you know, especially more so over the last 2 to 3 years, primarily we've seen a lot of demand coming from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 locations. So that is how today, if you look at it, we are working with more than 660, 670 schools across India. And you'll be surprised to learn that more than 55% of give and take a few percentage points, but more than 55% of our schools are located in tier 2, tier 3 towns. So that I think sends across a very strong message. It sort of goes back to the earlier point that I made, that it entirely depends on the mindset, on the vision of the management. We have schools who are running the Cambridge programs at they're charging an annual fee of मान लीजिए 40,000, 50,000, you know, 70,000, 80,000. So we have all of those. We are working with even IB for that matter, working with municipal schools as well. So, so I don't, to be honest, given the journey that we've seen over the last 2 years, I personally don't feel that it is just a perception that, you know, international boards are expensive, but that's not the truth. When you sit across the table and look at things, you'll be able to understand what is the value that you are deriving out of it. And obviously the eventual price is a factor, as Mahesh mentioned, is a factor of a lot of other things that come into the picture. मतलब obviously एक आपका lease land है, आपका खुद का land है. I mean, there are a lot of other factors that come into the picture, but it is entirely affordable. And given the successes we've seen and how well these schools are implementing it as well. So even charging an annual fee of 30, 40, you know, even 25,000, they're doing an excellent job of implementing the curriculum in its true spirit, or implementing the program. वो सबसे important है, and we take a lot of confidence from these, you know, live case studies as well. Maybe a little later on, after, you know, this panel discussion, we have a school head from one of our schools in Nasik, you know, and you'll get to hear from her about their own experience of setting up a Cambridge school in Nasik. So yeah, so it's just a myth.
I want to add one thing. Dr. Mishra has visited one of our schools in Udhampur. Who would have thought कि Udhampur would have a school?
Absolutely, sir. And it was a great experience to be there. Udhampur is about 1.5 to 2 hours away from Jammu. And I saw in a very small, possibly, yeah, what Siddharth was saying, CBSE and ICSE will not give permission to that school because of the boundary walls and the room sizes. But beautiful learning by, learning happening in the classrooms, excited teachers and, excited students. And in fact, since I am from Madhya Pradesh, I keep traveling the entire country. So I know there's a school called Eastern Public School, I can quote, in Bhopal that runs an IB program, charges about 40,000 rupees per annum. There's a school called Satpura Valley School in Betul. Who would think Betul? I think it's a tribal district, right? Betul has a school which charges about 45-50,000 rupees and they're delivering IB. As a school principals and school promoters, I'm sure I would want to ask questions possibly on their behalf, and then in the end they can also ask questions. So possibly 1.5 minutes each, I would want to ask, I think on behalf of Siddharth also, where are the teachers? It's very difficult to find a teacher who can transact a CBSE or a national curriculum in the classroom. Where are the teachers? How do you think if, international education, because see, in the globalized era after 1992, when the world was, when India was open to the entire world, we have seen a lot of international brands coming into India, and if I can say, Cambridge and IB as a global education brands, you're there in India, but how do we develop teachers, starting from you, Mahesh sir?
I always say that, as many of you may attest, that India is the software back office for the world. But many people do not know that we are also the software front office as Indians. Okay? आजकल भारत अच्छा word है, लेकिन as Indians, we are there in Silicon Valley, in New York, in Singapore, Australia, you name it. We are there in the front as well. What does it mean? It means that Indians are good quality management or managerial people. We are very good problem solvers as well. Why shouldn't our teachers be professionals and upwardly mobile? They can also have aspirations. And the Britishers did one good thing, they taught us English. So I think English is there available as a resource. And I'm happy to share that many Indian teachers are teaching around the world. Not only in Africa, in America, in China, in Australia, in Singapore. In fact, my son's mathematics teacher, he's a great teacher. He's from a place called Chamoli. Okay?
But sir, my issue is, those teachers are not going to come here.
To that. So what I'm trying to say is, there are good teachers everywhere. Even in a small town, you, with the help of an IB professional development, or with the help of a Cambridge professional development, you as management need to believe in constant professional development. That investment is required. These teachers can transform into great international curriculum teachers. That confidence hona hai. Okay? And that is the school management's prerogative to do it. Okay? If you look at it as an investment rather than a cost, it is possible. Okay? I have seen schools in small towns where teachers, IB teachers, have grown into becoming wonderful teachers, and they have been working in the same school for 7, 8, 9 years now. ये बहुत जरूरी है. अगर आप इंपोर्ट करेंगे टीचर को, एक IB टीचर को या कैम्ब्रिज टीचर को, वो आपके पास 1 से 2 साल के ऊपर रुकने नहीं वाला है. They will move. तो that affect, the school will see gaps in the learning. To avoid that, I say, look at teachers within your city or nearby, number one. Number two, आपको किस टाइप का टीचर लेना है? You should not look at people who are delivering syllabus. You have to look at teachers who are open-minded, who are facilitators. IB education in the classroom is facilitation. I think you will attest to that. Okay? Teachers are not teachers in the real sense. They are facilitators because knowledge and learning is all around us. I believe every city has got good Montessori schools or preschools.
Sir, time is running, so I would want you to finish as soon as possible. No, please finish this point.
So I am saying that I see no issue with tier 2, tier 3, finding good teachers.
So I'll add something here. So like a normal national curriculum school or a state board school, you do not need B.Ed degree to be a teacher. Cambridge and IB, they have their own teacher training programs. But again, my question to Akshay is, do you think somebody who goes to Bangalore or Bombay or does an online course would stay here in cities like Indore and Bhopal and they would teach? Where would the teachers come from? What's your perspective on this?
So, I think this analogy has been used multiple times in course of the day today. What's the elephant in the room or the elephant in the corner? So this is the one. I mean, there is no running away from the fact. I mean, if you look at lack of skilled teachers, I mean that is to quite an extent it's true across boards. I mean, then it all depends on how do we define skills and all of those things. In terms of obviously the changes that we are seeing with the NEP and the NCF coming into the picture. Now, if you look at, so Dr. Mishra mentioned about the school that we have in Betul or the school principal that we have here from Nasik. Now, these schools are catering to the local community. So they're catering to the local community. Their model is that you need to recruit talent from within the community, because that is how the economics will make sense, right? I mean, because you will charge, I mean, depending on how much fees you collect, that is what you're going to be paying to your teachers. Now, at Cambridge, there is a lot of focus on professional development courses. So we have a lot of face-to-face, online, synchronous and asynchronous courses. And we also do a lot of bespoke training where we, specifically for schools, we do training which is relevant to their context at the school as well, so that it becomes a lot more relatable. And the successes that we've seen over the past few years, we've seen a lot of teachers from within the community who have not had any exposure of international education or international pedagogies for that matter, have been able to adapt to it extremely well. One thing is obviously there's no requirement of some of the basic norms. However, it's the law of the land, so you by and large happen to have a B.Ed if you're part of the system. But if the teacher is nimble-footed, if the teacher is dynamic, and has a good content, he or she can easily adapt to the Cambridge system or even the IB system for that matter, in terms of being able to, it's a journey. So it's not going to happen that, only in 6 months time things will turn upside down, because at the end of it we are engaging with humans. But that trajectory will certainly begin and you'll automatically be able to see those changes. So we work very closely with the schools. We also have the qualifications or certificate and diploma courses that we offer, and that also enables you to, pick up a teacher, let's say from the community who doesn't have a lot of experience, but is able to go through that process and able to implement it in the classroom.
Thank you, Akshay. So now my question to you, Siddharth ji, will be, as a somebody who runs a school, director of a school running national curriculum, what do you think you would want to tell them? What are the fears?
As a school, how do I train the teacher and not be scared that they're going to leave me and my kids and go somewhere else? So the idea is that, you have to look at your own teachers who are teaching the CBSE curriculum, who have been with you. You can train them. So definitely, as representatives of IB and Cambridge, they need to increase the opportunity of trainings across India. Maybe come up with online training modules and make training cheaper for schools. From an investment point of view, we would like the trainings are more accessible for a larger teacher cohort. And affiliation fee is my second pay. We did not talk about affiliation fee and examination fee. Examination fee compared to CBSE and national boards is relatively high. If you don't mind telling us how much is this? Yeah.
I would agree that, I do not agree that the affiliation fees are high. I agree that especially for IBDP, the examination fees are high from an Indian perspective.
And so it is for Cambridge, I know. So since we have only, do you want to finish that? Done?
Yeah, I think
so. I'll tell you one thing from my experience. Somebody who studied in a state board, MP board, and started my career as an MP board, I think, if you are mentored right and trained right, you can become an IB and a Cambridge teacher, because I could do that in 3 years' time, and I was a decent teacher, I would say. Now, last 2.5, 3 minutes, I would take maybe 3 questions from the audience. Anybody, any questions for the panelists?
My question is that since we are a startup, we do not have a big stamp of validation on us. However, we are India's only organization dedicated to this, so we are confident about the quality of the content. Is it possible to collaborate with you as the nodal organizations and reach out to the schools of India, both Cambridge and IB, which are teaching digital citizenship? Because please do not expect us being a startup to, carry the burden on us to reach out to all these schools and tell them what we are doing in digital citizenship education.
So I think this is a question, after the session you can talk to Mahesh and Akshay and see, how you can collaborate with them.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yes.
Hello, Mr. Akshay Kishan. And we are having 2,200 schools in Indore and approximately 45,000 schools in MP. And I have also done a course in 1997 from Cambridge University. It's Business English and Communication. It was a distance course. And what I felt is that that was a good learning from BSS College, Bhopal. But if I talk about the MP boards schools and their teachers, so the fee, the more important thing, the exam fee and the syllabus is very high. So as we are talking about the education, and then 90% of education in Madhya Pradesh, MP boards schools are doing. So do the Cambridge have any minimum fee, with minimum fee training course for the MP board teachers? Because English is one of the important part, and many of the teachers are sitting here and they are also looking for such training. So do you have that any course? Are you making any program for
I think
that?
we'll have to answer this very quickly because the
I
time.
don't know, the course that you did, you mentioned that you did it from the University of Cambridge, so that is different because we are a sister concern of the University of Cambridge. So if you look at from a training cost point of view, it is not much, which is precisely why I gave you, I shared instances of schools that are delivering the state as well as the Cambridge board alongside in their setups across India. So that the training cost isn't that much. It is actually only a fraction of the cost. We can discuss it offline. But the very fact that we are able to come up with schools in tier 2, tier 3 cities and they are able to run it with their own set of teachers, that itself says, because I mean, one project could be a non-profit project, but not all the projects, right? So you have to run it in a sustainable manner, and it is entirely possible with the professional development courses that we have. So more than happy to discuss that offline.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Mahesh sir. Thank you, Akshay sir, for being here today. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks. Times when we are all passing through, evolution in all areas. Education is untouched. So this is the time for felicitation. May I please request Mr. Yogendra Patidar from Sivom to felicitate Dr. Dhirendra Mishra. May I request Mr. Yaval Ladda from Display Fort to felicitate Mr. Mahesh Balakrishnan. Call upon Mr. Rahul Jain to felicitate Mr. Siddharth Singh. I would request Mr. Gopal Soni from MP Board Private School Association